So, welcome back, Julian, to another podcast. Go over some Hajime no Ippo things, recent events, and just some questions from Reddit, the Discord, and just general things of the community. So first off, let's go over the last, I don't know, like say the 10 chapters. We started looking into more of Mashiba's backstory, and then we started to see Ippo develop his left-handed style in order to kind of go through this analysis of what this fight's going to be between Rosario and left-handed infighter versus Mashiba. And then we saw eventually Ippo starting to understand and starting to really get the hang of the left-handed style because he basically lived it for however long that entire training montage was, and then he was able to come back and actually help Mashiba, and even said that he did an exact replica of his upcoming fight with Rosario. So, how do you feel about that whole thing that's been happening?
Well, the last few chapters have been very good because Mashiba has become one of my favorite characters because the development that he's had throughout the series, it's been very amazing. He started being this kind of bully, this kind of weird, angry, violent person, but little by little, uh, he's become someone more kind of a serious guy that knows he's being supported by the people around him. So I don't know. I have very high expectations of what his world title fight is going to be because that will be the culmination of what Mashiba has been so far.
Yeah, he has had this pretty immense like transformation, at least for our eyes, because we didn't get his entire backstory at the beginning. So now that we understand that he isn't just an angry brawler like like Sendo is. He didn't want to be in that situation. I mean, he's hot headed, but he has this internal moral dilemma where he wants to protect his sister. He doesn't want to be a delinquent. He doesn't want to go back to jail. But now he's starting to come out of it and be like, oh, I actually have, I have supporters, my work family that's always there, my entire cheer squad, which in this point there's probably, thousands of them. And being able to see kind of him wrestle with this beast of darkness in one of my most recent videos, I started talking about it. I couldn't go into detail because like the video was already like 40 minutes long, and I was like, I can't do a 40-minute long video, so I cut a lot of it out. But I really like Berserk, and the whole Berserk's thing is he's constantly wrestling with this anger, this beast of darkness. You can't ever get rid of it. It's always there, but you have to be able to control it to a certain extent. And he uses that rage during battles. So I think now we're starting to get this transformation process where he's being more calculated with everything he's doing. He's not run on impulses and anger like he used to, like with the Saramura matches. So we're gonna see this new, almost like a Alfredo Gonzalez, where he had that wild side where he just beat the crap out of you, but he also has that very cold and calculated side. So I think he's getting in that transformation. So I really like this kind of beast of darkness thing that he's going through, and hopefully we see more of it. It wasn't just like a backstory ploy, but I hope he kind of wrestles with it during the match. And it was like, no, I can't lash out at this guy. He's just gonna dome me. He's just gonna punch me in the face. I have to work on this, but use it for my strength to hit him. To push through in order to stay on my feet. Because he's gonna get. This is gonna be a bloody match no matter what. I mean, Ippo did a really good job replicating this his style, but of course he's not using headbutts, he's not using elbows, he's not doing rabid bunches, he's not hitting like thighs or anything like that. And we know he's going to be a much more dirty fighter. So as good as the preparation was with Ippo, it's still going to be a bloody bloodbath. So
Yeah, uh, Mashiba has learned how to deal with that dark side of him that, like you have said, and not only that, that he's becomes that good of a boxer that he knows how to perfectly defend against headbutts, elbows, even knees, and things like that. In now he will be facing someone that so far as we know him, uh, this Rosario guy, he's basically a criminal, but in the sense that he has access to fire guns and things like that. So I think that's some a new level of opponent that he is going to have, not only as a boxer but as a person.
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit last time, where it's like he's fighting what he could have turned into, because we know he's been in jail multiple times for like assault and non-officially murder and stuff like that, all these things. So he's been in jail multiple times, but and he's kind of taken it. He doesn't care about what anyone else thinks of him, or even his manager. All he wants to do is fight and just taste blood. And that definitely could have been the same path that Mashiba was on. But I'm really glad to see uh, this kind of evolution in his boxing, where he's more squared up. So I commented a little bit about the way he is standing now, where it's more he's facing like his his shoulder to him. So I was thinking, I was like, oh, he could be shoulder rolling. But then Ippo pointed out, is like, oh, okay, so his fist is closer to his face and closer to his opponent. So he's able to block with it, and he has that extended reach since he's not squared up like he usually is. And plus, he used his defensive style with this new thing, so he'd be able to lean back with his long legs, and so he's able to stay out of fire for the most part. I think he only has to really worry about headshots, and then when he gets inside, he has to worry about body shots. But then he has that invisible uppercut. And it feels like in his new stance that his flickers are more direct, more like jabs, I would say, than flickers, but they also have the range of flickers. So, and it's harder to for it was even harder for Ippo to keep up with all the flickers when he switched styles. So it's going to be definitely hard for him to get in at first. I don't know if he'll have the same like pushing power that Ippo did, so it might be kind of hard for him to get in first round or so, and he'll probably adapt and just do whatever he can. Maybe like punching out, like grabbing his arm and pulling it out from him, like what was his name, Garomichi, or Kiromichi, whatever his name was, the throw up
Yeah,
boy.
Hiromichi.
When he started like cheating against Ippo, just like pulling his arm away so he can get some body shots in, kill his feet, and then maybe he'll be able to crawl, get inside more effectively. But how do you see like kind of the fight playing out?
It's true that Bo has, well, he's just recently started to box like a Southpaw. So what we saw in the spar is not exactly like it's going to be in the real fight, but we have seen that Mashiba has adapted his style in a way that he has a better, um, how do I say it, approach to his long reach in how he can use it to land body shots, which I think it will be a very important thing in that fight because Rosario is an infighter that is very tricky to fight. He's very tough, as we so far as we know. So I think that's something that Mashiach will be working on.
Yeah, it's cool to see. So he basically has like 4 or 5 lines of defense before someone's able to actually push in on them. So he has the flickers from long range, and then he has those kind of almost jabs to the body that was stopping Ippo from going directly in, and directly countered him pushing in, because he would just hit his body, so he wouldn't be able to get closer to him. And then if someone gets closer enough, then he has um, that kind of leeway to lean back with his long legs and possibly dodge. and then he has that invisible uppercut, and then of course he has the chop right. So he has all this defense now. He is probably one of the, I want to say one of the best defenses in the series.
That's true because uh, we sometimes don't acknowledge that Mashiba, uh, for when a fight is starting, he is very defensive. He has a fast reaction time. So yeah, his defense is more than we normally give him credit for.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, that's why I feel like even if I mean, he is national level, but I think he has a lot more. Um, it's gonna be difficult for him either way, at least in the first few rounds. I would imagine just trying to get through all those defenses in order to land like meaningful blows. It might be, and plus it'll be easier for him to, for Mashiba to realize what's going on, because Ippo has been thinking about this a lot recently. So he started doing combos that he think that Rosario is going to do. So he's going to be wary of these headshots, these jumping lefts that kind of, that he said before was kind of similar to the gazelle punch, but it's more of like a left hook that he uses a jump for. So he'll be more prepared for when that happens. So hopefully he'll be able to dodge some potentially lethal blows. It'll give him this better understanding of how exactly he's going to use his elbows and his forehead when he tries to get in, because he's going to get kind of a little taste of it, but be able to dodge it at the very beginning just because of his practice with Ippo. And like I said in the last podcast, um, I think that Mosh was going to win, but it's going to be um, a very bloody fight.
Mashiba has the numbers to win this fight because he's come from a very hard career. He's used to how to say battle it out. He's had hard fights
Yeah,
in the past. He has know how to overcome. In the Garcia fight, he got hit a lot, but his motivation, the reason he boxes, the reason he fights, uh, pushed him to the level that he needed to win the fight. So I think Mashiba is going to win.
yeah. And since he got this preparation from Ippo, that I think he's going to win. If he didn't, as I said last time, if he didn't have this happen, or didn't have him coach, or didn't have this spar with Ippo because of his pride, then I thought I was going to lose. But I'm glad that he eventually wised up. And I mean, of course, he wanted to punch Ippo in the face in the first place, but
I'm impressed they could box normally for what were uh, 5 6 rounds. That was amazing.
yeah, 7 rounds. Yeah, they said 7 rounds in the chapter. And I was like, okay, so he's doing it. And it's cool to see also that it's another character, and a coach that's like, he's better now than he
We
was.
saw a little evolution in the Mashiba and Ippo relation because it was kind of friendly. I could say the reason they fought, they were this thing that Ippo didn't allow Mashiba to bully him. He stood his ground, and Mashiba, even in his how could I say, madness, in his anger, he 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 didn't want he didn't want the sparring to be ugly, to be dirty. He wanted to uh, fight hard and clean.
And then for the very end of the last chapter, where we saw kind of what happened after Itagaki um, took a picture of the fight and then posted online saying, "Oh, he's getting ready for his title match. I wish him all luck." And it's just a picture of him getting punched in the face, and then he got just flamed. And I think it's one, it's really funny, and two, I definitely think there was going to be a much bigger impact of just like I figured it was going to be um, like more explosive, and maybe we would see it from different gyms, and maybe even see that it was like leaked to Rosario. But I think a lot of people thought that he was recording. It definitely seemed like he was recording when he's like, "Oh, I have to document this," um, with his with what looked like an iPhone at the time. But it looks like he just ended up taking a picture, which is much better. I imagine that he understands now as a boxer that, hey, maybe I shouldn't record a spar and then post it online. So otherwise, the rival champion would understand about what their tactics are going to be and able to break it down, and then kind of make uh, strategies in order to avoid it. But it's good that it was just a picture. And apparently, they're in the 2000s now. So I guess that explains the phone. And you were saying earlier about how like the phones were released like earlier, or they had access to better phones in Japan before really the US here. Because I mean in the US, I don't know about Mexico, but US in 2000, I want to say like slide phones with like keyboards.
Yeah, what I meant to say is that uh, we don't exactly know what kind of technology Japan had access to first, but because around over there technology is quite advanced, so uh, it's curious. It's like Morikawa decided to play a bit with the concept of what would happen if Itagaki took a picture or something like that when he was meant to be retired. He's sparring with this guy that is about to fight for a world title match.
Yeah, true. And I wonder where he heard the rumor about him cracking Bull's ribs during his training camp. It just makes me wonder, like, since he heard it, he was in Japan, like how available or how popular is that? Like, how many people know that he was training with him and he ended up hurting world champion? Um, I mean, no, Sendo wouldn't have told them. I don't know why he would. He's not exactly very partial to Mashiba, but everyone else there still isn't in Japan, so I'm just curious how that got about. But if that came, if everyone knows that, and then people hear that Macho was put against the ropes against him, a retired boxer again. He's sparred against two world champions at this point, while he's been retired for, I think, at least 2 years at this point. So he's been retired for quite a while, but everyone that he spars with, or they say like there's like he's stronger now than he when he was retired. He has this large arsenal now that now we see on top of what we saw with Vol with the parry counter and all this stuff. We now he's starting to understand like the gauging distances and changing his tempo, along with the whole thing of switching to left-handed. So he'll be able to do all these kind of things with both hands at this point, and then use his pivot foot on both legs so he can generate as much power with his left than he can with his right. So it's definitely when he comes back, or if something happens, or maybe even like the fanboy Ricardo, he starts to understand this, where he's like, wait, Sendo has only lost once, well, twice to this guy. Bolg fought him and Masha fought him, and now these guys are all on the world level now and are all losing to this one retired guy. And we know Ricardo's a fanboy because apparently the Wally versus Ippo fight was in his personal collection, and that's how Ricardo's coach found Wally in the first place. He was looking through Ricardo's old collection of fights, so we know he understands. He's like, oh, the Dempsey boy. Like, I don't know if he actually knows his name yet, but Like he sees him all the
Yeah,
time now
that
and hears all
Ippo
about him.
is the center of this wheel of fate where everything links to him.
So yeah, I'm just curious like when like how exactly he's going to like come back and how it's going to play a role. I mean, we can switch to that from all these recent chapters. What's our kind of new hypothesis about how Ippo is going to come back? I would be like, it'd be kind of cool to have him like have this conversation with Ricardo after Sendo's match after he loses, and maybe like invite him, but he says he only takes challengers from that are number one seeds. I mean, I guess besides Wally, but he was a special case. I think he was like third or something like that, third or fourth. But it'd be cool to see him actually have a conversation with Ippo and kind of maybe give him a little more of a drive.
Wally was meant to be like an, I don't know if I have to I don't know if he saying like that. Um, Wally wasn't meant to be that big of a fight. It was more like a preparation because Wally was a wild fighter, just like Sendo is. The objective has been Sendo for a long time now. It happened. What happened? Wally was an even more of an amazing fighter that somehow lost to Ippo.
I mean, even he underestimated him. Yeah, you're right. That it was supposed to be just a preparation match, but just because of how naturally gifted and like flexible, very adaptive, very animalistic that Wally was, he ended up being a difficult challenge for him. Probably the first time we've ever seen him struggle.
Ricardo wanted to fight a monkey before he faces the tiger.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Fight a monkey before you fight a tiger. Yeah, it was really interested to, like I said, I think that was his toughest fight. I mean, even Ricardo even said that the most respected fighter he's fought was Date. So, and just thinking back to Date's fight with Ricardo, it Wally was far tougher of a challenger. I don't even think well, technically Ricardo got hit once, I think, in that entire match versus Date, and even that was just in the chest. So, and he thought he did it, but of course Ricardo was able to pull through and almost struck it up like a.
The thing with the fight with Wally, is that Wally was too fast to do anything against him. In that fight, Ricardo had to hold back a little, wait for the rounds to pass, so he could start to box and do anything to win the fight. So I think that's something that differentiates the fight between Wally and between Date.
I mean, Date was much more calculated. I mean, he had a lot of experience. I mean, he was a veteran, so he had that let's call it clairvoyance in order to dodge things and see things. Even people that are fast as Miyata, um, to be able to react to those kind of things. That's what helped him a little bit in the fight. But he still ended up breaking his hand and breaking his jaw, which he might have been successful if he didn't break his hand in order to hit Ricardo with that what was it I want to say solar plexus shot, but that's not it. Heartbreak shot in order to do that. And even Ricardo said that like, yeah, you might have been able to down me and you maybe even finish me if you didn't break your hand in the process of trying to do this. But Wally, yeah, it was much more about the maneuverability, his agility that was the real problem, and he had a tough time. And then he decided to say, "Oh, I'm just gonna stick it out in the middle of the ring," and then because he did that, he was able to corner Wally and able to respond quicker because he wasn't against the ropes or pushed to the side of the ring and letting Wally do whatever kind of he wanted. So when he did that, when he planted himself in the middle of the ring, it was much harder. And then, of course, when the ref was like, "Oh, you're using the ropes too much," it cut off that maneuverability, so he wasn't able to escape Ricardo as
That's
easily.
something that was very criticized back then when Ippo fought Wally. that Wally had it too easy with the ref. He could do a lot of things that are not allowed in a boxing match.
We've talked a little bit in the Discord. You said um, you've been doing boxing. So what are like the specific rules that regular people wouldn't know about boxing that are illegal things to do against the ropes or use the ropes for?
That's something interesting too, because the manga uh, taught, taught me a couple of things about boxing rules that one normally doesn't learn. Well, the first one is what was this rule that the corner of one fighter can't yell during the match. They can just talk to him between rounds when they are resting, when they are giving him water. In something that I didn't
Okay.
know is that boxers are not allowed to grab the rope. They can lean in, like Muhammad Ali used to do when he used the rope a dope against
Yeah.
um, George Foreman.
Yeah, you can't like grab the rope from like prevent from falling.
Yeah, that's a great song that Ali in other boxers in the actuality, uh, in the modern times they use. But the objective in boxing has always been you stand there inside the ring, you punch, you don't grab, you don't do anything else than that.
Yeah. I don't know how boxing etiquette was like back in the day. I mean, like apparently it's, in the early 90s and getting into the early 2000s now. But like some of these fights, I mean, almost all of Ippo's fights, you're like, what is the ref thinking? I mean, he's just getting beat to a bloody pulp, or like he's barely conscious or unconscious.
Should have been stopped by the ref. The ref gave Ipo too many blows in his career, allowed too many blows.
Yeah, exactly. And it's nice to see now that people are starting to understand that he was like he took a lot of damage. I mean, uh I forget his name, with Kojima, and like the hardest punch, like the punch of like a guy that was like three weights up.
Yeah, that guy was a lightweight. He was two weight classes above Ipo
Yeah. And like they said that he was like getting hit by a car or getting hit by a
by a
train or
truck.
whatever
I
like
think
that.
it was,
And he took a direct
yeah,
one to the face.
not to the face, to this side of the head that is very sensible.
Even back then, I mean, during his kind of reign through his like championship and stuff like that, going his title defenses, we started to see more of the accumulated damage, and then we get into the Pacific Island, not the Pacific fights, or like the islands. I forget what's called, but he started fighting all those other
Pacific champions,
champions, and
yeah.
Wally kicked his ass. Yeah, and then the Malcolm Ghetto, which he was in pretty rough shape for that one, and then eventually down the line, Fredo kind of just sealed the deal with that huge right
You
counter.
know, the concept of a fighter that makes a comeback is very interesting. It's very fun and entertaining. But I think Morikawa abused about of it a little too much. Ippo was constantly every single fight losing round by taking beatings, but somehow Ippo used it to get the win. And that was fine for the first part of the series, the first season where he was the challenger, he was
Yeah,
looking for the title, he even lost a fight. But when Ippo became a champion, I think that thing started to be a little tiring, a little, man, this guy is taking a lot of damage. He's not going to have a very long career.
it just wasn't enough at like the world level when he started climbing ranks. Like being champion, like in a state or region, it's it's different. Or even doing that kind of thing when you first start out fighting, you just do throw everything you can at them, everything you've learned. I want to know what it means to be strong. That's good, but when he got to that level, he never once said, "Oh, I want to beat Ricardo," or "My goal is Ricardo," or "My goal is a world championship." He never said that. He just like, "I want to do everything. I want to do everything I can, to try my best." and I
There
want a
was a
world title
chapter
shot.
in this retirement arc where Ippo asked himself if he ever considered Ricardo as a goal. That was never a thing he thought.
Yeah,
He always boxed because people were cheering him. People wanted Ippo to see that he became a world champion, but that wasn't Ippo's goal.
yeah, exactly. He didn't really have a goal at that time. Uh, and that I think was one of his biggest things. That not having a goal and not having the confidence to do it. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a confident person, but you have to be a confident going into the fight and being like, like I'm going to win,
The mentality.
and uh, I yeah, like not questioning if you're gonna lose. I mean, there's a difference between like you know, fighting to win and then losing, and then fighting to do your best and you could lose, and like, is it enough? Can he do it? All this stuff. He was very in his head the entire time. So many of his matches, he was just in his head, and that's where he got defeated. Like, was always in his head because he had the strength to do it. He had the stamina. He was able to take punches. It was just that extra push. And like Takamura said, you know, after um, the world title, you have to be a monster. You have to be able to cast aside your humanity. And lots of other boxers have done this. I think it was Sugar Ray did it. Mike Tyson. They had these alter egos where once they get into the ring, they become that monster. They have that, and Ippo just doesn't have it at that point. And if he doesn't have a goal, and how is he supposed to develop a monster in order to achieve something if he doesn't have anything to achieve? Saying like, "Oh, I want to fight in a world title," like it's our boxing works, but you can't do it without it. It's that motivation that he really
That's
needs.
something that frustrated. I can say it. Frustration. I used to feel frustration when I was reading the manga because each fight you could see how Ippo didn't progress as a boxer. He had this very limited set of tools of what he could do. Kojima exposed that the Ippo developed this pattern where he would duck and go for the liver blow every single time because that's the only thing he knew how to do. That was very frustrating. It's something very satisfying seeing Ippo. The retirement helped him to study boxing, to look what else can he do, how he can use his left hand, how he can parry. Uh, Being a trainer has been something that I think has been the key thing for Ippo to grow as a boxer finally.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, I think Kamogawa is really good when it comes to like boxing basics and developing those, and maybe even theory crafting for boxing in Ippo's specific style. But notice how when it's like Takamura in the ring, he doesn't have anything to give him in like strategy wise when he's fighting
Yeah,
these people. He's not much of, I would say, a
he gives
strategist. So
motivation.
Ippo had to learn that himself. Yeah, exactly. Like he's there, he'll do everything he can to help with his fighter or stuff like that. But yeah, he just wasn't much of a strategist. So Ippo had to retire in order to learn these things. Like other people from different camps, different fighters. He had to learn all of that because Kamigawa
To
doesn't
be
have the skill
fair,
set for it.
I was watching the first season the other day. In the beginning, Kamogawa, he said that that's the kind of boxing that he wanted to teach to someone, and that's when Ippo started boxing. Ippo was the kind of kid that could learn how to box as the way Kamogawa wanted because he's an old man. He grew in this in the this this history that we had about Kamogawa in Nekota, where they were these boxers, these prize fighters, and they were basically making shows where Kamogawa was this hard boxer that the best thing he knew to do was throwing punches, very hard punches, and never give up.
Yeah, yeah. And Kamogawa kind of became Ippo's father figure in a lot of different ways. So taking everything from him and even taking his style and everything like that and doing everything for the coach, it was, you know, it's admirable, but there's certain points where you shouldn't lean on your teacher anymore. Eventually, you're going to have to start making those decisions and start kind of doing those theory crafting and developing on your own, which some of his best development he's done by himself. I mean, the Dempsey role that was all him. He didn't even know about it before. Eventually, we learned it. He was just practicing defense and he wanted to add something else into it. Throw in more attacks. So the biggest innovation for him ever in his boxing career happened by himself. Kamogawa didn't have anything to do with it. Um, but yeah, so he definitely formed to Kamogawa's style. But it's good that he's finally now, doing more of his own things. So he's able, like, I don't think Kamogawa would ever be like, oh, let's do a parry counter. Like, he wouldn't have ever kind of brought that up, or let's work on like tempo or distancing or stuff like that. But and even that, like, he wasn't able to do back in the day because distancing, he already wasn't able to draw a straight line. He was already collapsing from exhaustion. He was already losing a majority of his fights. I mean, not he was losing consciousness in a majority of his fights and stuff like that. There was all these signs there where he couldn't gauge distances. He couldn't do all of this stuff. His stamina was running out fast. He was falling off his feet, which falling down when you're on a boat all day, like there's something wrong. So
Mhm.
I'm glad he finally has his time. People saying like, "Oh, I wish he would come back. Wish he would come back," or like, "Why did he retire?" Or, like, a lot of people dropped the manga because he retired, but it was needed. He would have died. Like, it would have ended up as a what is called a Shida no Joe or whatever. He would have died in the ring if he kept going that far. So I'm glad he's taking this break. I mean, other mangas and other animes, they have time skips. It's just Hajime no Ippo just isn't going to skip years of character development and all these fights. Like, can you imagine?
Morikawa doesn't do that.
Yeah, yeah,
Morikawa is the kind of guy that cooks in a very slow pace.
yeah. Like, it would suck if, like, he lost his last match and then whatever, and then there's a time skip and you're like, oh, by the way, Sendo lost to Ricardo. Mashiba is a champion now. Vorg is a champion now. Like, wouldn't you want to see all those fights? So I don't know. Just kind of, people should just enjoy the fights we have now. I mean, he's heavily hinting at Ippo coming back, so he's gonna come back. I mean, it's like a shonen, right? No one's gonna die
That's
really.
something that
Um,
that's something that I have always liked about Hajime no Ippo.
yeah,
It gives the time screen for a lot of characters that at the beginning you get to know it. You get to know them. You get to know what are their motivations, why they box in that, and then you see them grow. We have seen how Mashiba is now preparing for his world title match. How Sendo has beat a lot of people. How he beat Alfredo, and now he's fighting for his world title. We saw how Volk became a world champion. That's great. I think that's something that Jimeno Ippo has always known how to do right. Give time screen to characters other than the protagonist.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we've already gotten so much development. I mean, Mashko might have been in my like top 7 favorites, maybe. But after his backstory and everything that's happened and all of his development, I would say he's firmly probably in the top 3 or 4 for me now. I mean, it's just it brings so much more depth to the story, just by taking this time to develop these characters. And now or we were humanizing, like we finally humanized Ricardo, with the fight with Wally. We humanized Mashiba with his backstory. I wouldn't be surprised if we went into Sendo a little bit, like maybe right before their match, or maybe right after. Like he's um, remembering all of his past and stuff like that after he gets defeated by Ricardo, and starts thinking, and maybe he does end up like being punch drunk. Now he's retired from boxing and has to think about everything that he's done. I mean, I feel like he would accept it, like I fought the strongest person in the world, and that's always what I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was fight, and I did that. And so now it'd be like a good close to the character. It'd be like I did exactly what I wanted to. My coach promised me to be able to fight the strongest in the world, and I did that. And I lost. I can't box anymore, but I did exactly what I wanted to do. And maybe marry his teacher or whatever that's like living with him apparently now. Um, but yeah, it's a lot more. Even Itagaki, like Takamura, like all of them are getting way more development, and it's needed. I like deep
Man, I
stories.
want to see Itagaki be good again. I can stand the Itagaki we have now. I kind of like it, the Itagaki that has this thing of being a genius, that has had an ego that he wanted to use to push forward on his career. Man, the Itagaki now, it's it's Aokimura basically.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's dive into some of these Discord questions. I think we're both excited to get into these. So one of the questions is, in your personal opinions, where should the series go after the Sendo fight that makes the most sense?
That's a good question because what do you think we are going to see first? Uh, it first comes Mashiba's world title match, and then comes Sendo's title match, right?
Yeah, it's 1 month afterwards. So that's probably gonna be immediately go to his next match. It might take a break and to do because I know Ippo's students wanted to take their exams. So I don't know if it's gonna be like Mashiba exams and then
Yeah,
Sendo,
that's also that.
but I imagine that's how it's gonna go. And
Answering the question, well, after Sendo's world title match, uh, we got to see first what's going to happen with Sendo because what would make sense from a narrative perspective? Sendo losing, right?
yeah,
Or maybe drawing with Ricardo? We don't know. We have this big fight ahead of us, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe it happens this thing that Sendo loses, and because of that, Ippo wants to fight Ricardo. We don't know. We are yet to see how it develops.
I mean, that's definitely probably one of the most pivotal things in the story. I mean, we're taking um, one of his biggest rivals and putting it up against basically the god of boxers. Uh, and plus he's like the main antagonist of the story. So I don't think he's going to be losing at all. I mean, I think he might be downed for the first time in his career. I mean, if he takes one of Sendo's punches like full throttle, like I imagine it would down him, but it wouldn't stop him. And then we might be able to see this kind of this like Diablo mode that he's kind of hinted at at the Wally fight. And then if Sendo eventually loses, and if what happens is he does end up being like punch drunk after the match, because Sendo was taking a lot of punches too. I wouldn't say nearly as much as Ippo or to the extent of Ippo.
What he did in the first fight, taking those punches in the face. My God.
Yeah.
He was a bit rather than City.
He struggled a lot against like the very tactical side of Alfredo until he eventually brought out like more of the brawler side of him. But he was getting demolished, and Ricardo has an even better like tactical side and flawless basics. So I think it might eventually turn into a brawl, but he's still gonna have that like calculated side, more in tuned with his calculated side than Alfredo was, because he finally got to that step where it was more of a natural thing where he's able to go use both of them. We haven't ever seen that from Ricardo. He doesn't have that like fire. We saw a little bit of the fire, at the end of the match, but where he was like enjoying it and he really like liked it, and he was being challenged finally. At this point, I feel like after that, maybe imagine Ippo is going to be there, and then maybe he says something about that he wasn't strong like he needed to be, or that's not what strength is, or whatever. And then Ippo might like question him, and he might just say like, well, I was like, if you want to know, then you're gonna have to fight me, or we're gonna have to fight it. You're gonna have to be in a match, and then I'll tell you. Or maybe you'll figure it out, or something like that. Or might even give him words of wisdom, like it takes motivation, or I don't know, something else more philosophical or something like that I've gone through in my previous videos when talking about Kamogawa and Takamura. And I said it right the first time.
No, you said Takamaru. It's okay.
uh,
You told me that you had difficult to say his
I
name.
don't
It's
I don't
okay.
know. I don't know what it is. I just randomly it just randomly slips out of my mouth. I don't know why. I know what his name is. I just say it wrong for some reason, even though I talk about him all the time. When I'm editing, I'm just like Takamura, Takamura, and then I'll do the edit. I'll do the voiceover.
Takamaru.
Um, but yeah, maybe he'll have some of this philosophical knowledge for Ippo that eventually puts a fire under him to get going again. Maybe it would take that plus maybe Takamura's first loss, or when Takamura retires. So I feel like we're really heavily focusing on Takamura right now. As World Championships, I think he still has what? He still has two more.
Takamura has
He has four right
he's
now.
the
No, he has
super
he has three.
he's
He has three belts in four divisions. That's right. He has two of the same belt.
he's super middleweight right now, I think.
Yeah, his
After
his
that
next fight
comes
is the light heavyweight.
light heavyweight.
Yeah, this is his first heavyweight bout.
After that is cruiserweight, and finally is heavyweight. Three
Yeah,
divisions, and we don't know if he is going to unify world titles or something like that in between. So there is Takamura for a long time yet.
yeah. So he still has at least six more fights if he's going to get through, all the belts, or maybe he only gets to five and isn't able to do the sixth, and Ippo eventually comes around doing it. And then like if he comes back, the first person that I think he might fight against, I don't know. I think he could be challenged right away. Like once he comes back and challenged by was it Aime right away, the current champion. But I don't think, if you don't have a ranking, I don't think you can go directly into a title match. I mean, but I could be wrong. But I feel like there should be like one like cannon fodder person that's like, oh, he was in retirement. He's been retired for a long time. I could probably beat him. And then the guy absolutely gets clobbered. Ippo doesn't take any damage, and then everyone sees how, oh, this isn't the same Makanouchi that was fighting before. This isn't like a
Because
he's
there is that thing with Imai. He's the Ippo before retirement. So Morikawa has this opportunity of creating this parallel between these two persons.
exactly like Aime is probably the same way that Ippo used to be. Like he's a hard puncher, he's an infighter. Yeah, he has a lot of pressure, and he has a lot of stamina, so he's able to stay up. So it's basically Ippo fighting his former self, and I can imagine him like he might do some damage to Ippo. But with all Ippo's new tricks and all these things, I don't think it's going to be close. I think he would shock everyone that like how easy he was able to like clobber the current Japanese champion. Um,
We
and
want to see that. I
yeah,
hope we see that in the future.
yeah, that'd be sick. I can't wait for that too. Like just seeing this kind of point where he's trying to charge in and Ippo is good on his feet. I mean, he's even faster now. Like he's able to what was it? He was able to kind of dodge and get out of dodge during the Mashiba when did a combo and then got away. And then when he was kind of sparring and showing Sendo on the rooftop, wait, different place. What was it? It was one of the spars between Sendo and Ippo. No, it was in a ring. Yeah, so when he was practicing Fall Fredo
Yeah, they
before
made
going
the
into it,
sparring,
yeah, he was able to dodge.
and people didn't want to hit Sendo, so he was constantly on defense.
Yeah,
And we could see how he could outbox Sendo. So that's something to keep in mind.
yeah, it's true. He can outbox Sendo, and he probably has more power than Sendo now. I mean, it took two hands, on the rooftop. I was there. Evil punched, and the glove flew off of Sendo's hand. I went like 20 or 30 feet away, hit the statue, but like he even Sendo was like, oh, and like his hands were like stinging, from Ippo's punch. So, and that's with Sendo's strength. With both hands, he was guarding to try to catch Ippo's punch, and he failed miserably. So, I'd say he's much stronger than Sendo now.
I don't know. I will give Sendo the benefit of the doubt because Sendo has not been used to being the trainer. The one
Oh
who
yeah,
holds
true,
the meet.
true.
So we gotta see exactly where the power level is between these two.
I mean, those are just my kind of thoughts about where the story would go. I could imagine since if Ippo comes back, that since the whole motivation for Itagaki is to like fight Ippo, that he might leave in order to fight him. Maybe fight him before the Aime match, because I remember he said one time that he wanted to block Aime from fighting Ippo, so he wanted to be the champion um, before he comes back, and he didn't want Aime to get to him. So maybe he leaves. He joins. I don't know, like the Miyata's gym with his father. Get trained by him, which is a much better trainer than the one he has now for his specific style. And then he challenges Ippo. He loses to Ippo, and then he goes to Aime. So that definitely could be it. And then we might see some like old challengers from back in the day come back and that are still active and like maybe the ones that were weaker and stuff like that come back eventually challenge him being like, oh, he's retired and he beat me last time, but he's rusty now and might do that and then climb up the ranks again. But it's kind of how I imagine where it's going to go.
Yeah, something that I always like it about Hajime no Ippo is that you don't exactly know what's going to happen next. That's something that I have always enjoyed, and I don't know. I just want to see what Morikawa does with the story.
True, yeah. It's definitely one of the harder ones to imagine what's going to happen. But I also like those kind of stories, like like Berserk and Hunter x Hunter, like those type of things that are just like there's so much stuff happening, and there's so many different characters that you're not sure what's going to eventually happen, or you know how the dominoes are going to start.
What's going to happen first?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We kind of answered this one. What is Ippo's logical roadmap when returning to the ring? Like I said, I think he might have a starter. Uh,
Well,
go
in
ahead.
in my opinion, I think he should fight someone in the rankings of Japan, then aim for the world. Sorry, for the Japanese title, kind of like that they did back in the day. He slowly but surely, and eventually, he got the opportunity to his world title match.
Had a few fights, became the Japanese world champion, and then I think Date did like 5 or 7 title defenses, and then he relinquished his belt. Um, I mean, we didn't see him go directly to. I mean, we didn't see him kind of fight any other world rankers to get up the list. So I'm not entirely sure how he got to like the number one seed to be able to challenge Ricardo. Because it seemed like as soon as he relinquished his belt, he's like, "All right, I'm going to fight Ricardo now." I mean, unless all of his title defenses were with rankers, but I can't imagine a single like Japanese champion, getting all these other, title requests and stuff like that, and to be able to make it so he goes to the top. I mean, there's other veterans and other guys that are really difficult, but I don't know how exactly he just kind of got right to Ricardo. But
I kinda want to see Ippo fight Antonio Guevara otra vez
oh
again.
yeah, he was very underdeveloped, very new and
That
green.
because that was a very close match. And Antonio Guevara was this young kid that resembled what Ippo was. So I think after all this time, this couple of years, I think it would is interesting to see how that would go because we don't know exactly what has been of Antonio Guevara. As far as we know, he got Ippo's world ranking and he's very up there. Who knows what has happened with him?
Yeah, true. I think Hippo was ranked like 6 when he fought Alfredo, so he might have got that rank and just been kind of the world level for all this time. If he was at the world level for 2 years, that'd be insane. He would definitely be a lot better because he was very green when he fought Ippo, and he was getting just rushed and he couldn't really do anything. All he was kind of do was make him stay off him with his left. But now, like Ippo has all this strategy, and he's able to go southpaw, so he's not going to be tripping over his leg over and over again like he did, and he isn't like doesn't have symptoms of being punch drunk like he did before when he was losing his balance and wasn't able to understand distance and stuff like that. That was a big handicap that he had during that fight, and he tripped, and it was counted as a down for his second down or something like that, and ended up losing him the match after he fell down again after he got countered. Probably for the best, but still.
Yeah, that matchup wasn't very smart because Ippo didn't have the need to fight an opponent with that specific characteristics. He was a young, tall, southpaw boxer. We are all of heart because as his backstory was kind of similar to Manny Pacquiao.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
So
didn't
there
see
is
that.
that.
Yeah, that's totally real. He was just trying to help his family, and he's trying to get together enough for people to eat and stuff like that. And that was his whole motivation of why he wanted to beat Ippo in order to get his world ranking and make money for his family back home. Yeah, I didn't see that correlation before. That's pretty cool. It'd be cool if they kind of push that along, and you're just like, oh yeah, like he's a prominent member in their city now, and he's doing all this stuff and he's boxing and stuff like that. It would definitely be cool to see him fight Guevara again. Starting to see a recurring theme. One of the other questions is who should Ippo's first opponent be when he returns, and how should the fight go?
Well, as I said, maybe he fights some Japanese ranked fighter. I don't know because we all want to see Ippo fight quickly, immediately, Imai because that parallelism that we talk about. But I don't know. I don't know how it would play out
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I'm not entirely sure who the first opponent would be if he has to have a return match before getting challenged by Aime. But I feel like he's going to do a lot more research. Like he's going to get whatever tapes he can, and then he's going to review them, and then he's going to make a strategy around that person's fighting, which he's never done before. He's going to be like, okay, I'm going to start like this. I'm going to feel him out first. I'm just going to be using my left and then kind of dodging. And then once I get accustomed to his range and his style of fighting, everything like that, and then I'm going to start making these contingency plans where my first rush, I'm going to go in, try to get like a leaping left, try to hit him from the side, or fake him out with a lot of lefts, and then finally throw a right, and just kind of strategize the entire thing. The first, like, I don't know, like 5 rounds needs to be like, okay, then it should be like he's going to be tired at this point. It doesn't look like he has, looks like he has a lack of stamina. So if I do that, then I'll be able to rush him, put him against the ropes, and Dempsey roll, and then finish him off that way, and just be almost a flawless execution that we haven't seen from Ippo before. Like I said, I don't think he's going to get hit in his first coming batch back.
It would be nice to see a fight like the one he had against Karasawa back then when Ippo, for some reason, he was very smart and knew what he had to do to win the fight.
Yeah, yeah. Remind me that that's the one where he said he was only going to stick with the basics and he wasn't going to use the Dempsey roll. So he used the basics and basically was his only like flawless fight that he's fought in. I think it's the one you're talking about, where he was just like, I'm not going to use the Dempsey roll. I'm just going to use that. And he was able to do it and get a relatively easy win from that fight, just because like he wasn't relying so much on the Dempsey roll.
Yeah, Ippo in that fight used every strategy he knew to counter this kind of fighter that is not boxer, that fights from far, that is quick and all of that.
Yeah, definitely. It just makes sense. I mean, with all this development and all this strategizing, even be able to break down like fighters like he has been recently. I mean, there's his breakdown of Miyata and Ricardo and their differences specifically, and then like his analysis of Sendo, and his style and everything that's going to happen. Where he's like, if whoever has the best chance of Ricardo, it would be Sendo, and then his whole analysis, how he breaks down everything in the Mashiba and Rosario, like he's doing all this all the time, and thinking about all these things. He has to bring that to his own fights. So he's at this point forward, I think he's just going to be doing a lot of strategizing and not just be like, I'm just going to take everything I learned and I'm punch him. I'll punch him real hard. Uh, like he's actually going to have a plan going forward in all these matches, which I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I like it, this little moment that Ippo had after the sparring with Mashiba, where he was talking to the Mashiba's sparring partners, the ones that usually spar with him, and how he started to explain exactly what they had to do, and they just started to see and paying attention totally.
Last question from the Discord. How do you think Ippo's "what does it mean to be strong" question will be answered? Will eventually go to like the Mr. Miyagi route where it comes from within? I'd like to know what you think.
Well, I shared something a couple of days ago. It was about the subreddit, about what it meant to be strong for Ippo, and was this thing that he has with his father, that even after all the training as a boxer that he's done, his meaning of being strong is being a person that protects his family, protects his loved ones. So maybe that's how the answer will be answered for Ippo, when not only as a boxer but as a person he starts to develop, he starts to uh, get older, uh, starts to care about taking care of his mom, and maybe taking care of Kumi, uh, because we are seeing how his relationship is finally uh, having progress. So I think that's the road to to answer what does it mean to be strong for Ippo.
And I've thought about this a lot. I even made a whole video on it. He has a lot of things, but I think his strength, like you said, comes from the love and passion he has for other people. He tries his hardest in the name of other people. So I think kind of this culmination of like influence, other people relying on him or wanting him to, be at the world level or do things for the coach or do things for his mom or doing things for Takamura or, Miyata or whatever. He needs some kind of catalyst. Like in one of the chapters, it said like Kamogawa and Ippo kind of have this latent seed where there's going to be triggers. Things are going to happen. Things need to happen in order for him to come back. So what that is, we don't really know. But knowing both of them, and he says that there's probably already triggers, there. So if it's like if Takamura says, "Oh, I needed one more belt," I was like, "I'm going to regret this." I was like, "I wasn't able to fulfill my promise to the coach, like I said I was going to. Could you do this for me, Ippo?" Or if Kamogawa's sickness turns for the worst, and he says, "I wasn't able to fulfill this promise to Yuki, the person that he says that he was going to have a pupil that inherited his fists, and he's going to win a world title, and then he'll finally visit her grave." Or maybe they need promotion at the shop or whatever. His mom gets sick, so he needs extra income in order to keep his business afloat or something like that. One of those like kind of needs to happen in order for him to be like, this person needs me to do this. I know I can do it. Everyone, all the people that he sparred with, all the people that, even Takamura, like, him getting him winning the race with Takamura pretty much since he had weights on, and all the spars and all the people he's talked to be like, we know you're better than you were when you were active. We know you could do this. I was like, but it's up to you. Like he has to find that monster in him in order to help, in order to make the stream that other people want for him or, want in order to make him happen. So I think that's definitely the biggest thing for him. He needs that confidence. He needs a catalyst for someone to push him that way, and then he'll eventually return. And that might even not be like the
Yeah,
answer. That might just be what puts him on the road for the answer. Because if Ricardo has the same question, like we've seen, right? We don't know if it's been answered by his coach or if he's ever found the answer, but we know he had the same question. We know he had the same question. So he might get that question he might get to answer that question at the very end of the series, where it's like it's using um, everything you are, being confident, um, to pursue what you want in life, um, like not ever giving up and doing it in the name of of others, finding that strength through like love, compassion.
yeah. Ippo has never been the kind of person that finds strength in the physical side. He's always been the kind of guy, the kind of kid that finds strength in his courage, in his um, capacity to endure, to overcome whatever situation he faces.
Yeah. So, like I said, he has the capability. He can do it. He's able to push himself extremely hard, and if it's for the sake of other people, he can push it even harder. Um, do whatever he can to. It's like he has all the tools to fix a car, but he just hasn't fixed the car yet. He just he just doesn't have the confidence or the drive to do it. You need those two things in order to get things done. It's easier to be complacent and to like not do things or put them off, but in order to actually do them, you have to get that motivation to do it.
Yeah, I think Ippo um, hasn't reached the time of his life where he realizes that he has all these tools, all these ways of being that make him a very strong person. You know, it's the kind of thing that maybe someone from outside uh, can tell about you, but you can't tell about yourself.
Yeah, and I think Takamura is one of those people in the series. Like he's like the big brother. Like the coach is like his dad, and Takamura is the closest thing to a brother he has. You know, same disciples and everything like that. And he tells Ippo all these kind of philosophical things. It's why he's probably my favorite character in the series. Is he, he is, he's dumb. He's an asshole for a lack of a better term. He has a lot of hubris, so a lot of pride, greed, and he's a pervert. But like he has this strange philosophical depth to him that I really like. How he's like, you know, how Ippo when he lost, he's like, you knew I was going to lose, right? And he's like, and he was telling Ippo, he's like, well, when you make excuses, that means like you have like there's something you rely on, or saying like I could change this, I could change this. When he when you don't have any of that and accept the loss, that's when you really lose. And so after his fight with Alfredo, he's like, yeah, you didn't give the coach any excuses. You just said you couldn't do it, or just he would have been mad for the making excuses, but he would have also been happy that there's something else he can change. Like there's something they can move forward. He just accepted defeat at that point. Um, and telling about like only monsters survive at the world level, which is true. It takes real monsters in order to compete at that level. He's very philosophical with those things. So it could be Takamura kind of gives him that like philosophical kind of speech that he really desperately needs, and he looks up to Takamura. So I wouldn't be surprised that after he retires, after Takamura retires, that he becomes Evo's coach, because he's been at the world level, he's fought different kind of fighters, he's pretty much a hard puncher, and he has the strategy that Kamogawa never did.
Was basically his coach the first time he fought Miyata, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, and we
It
saw that he
would
can hold mitts pretty good
come
too.
in full circle.
Yeah, yeah, definitely can bring it
Yeah,
full circle. And he says that one of the only people that was able to hold mitts for Ippo in this new post-retirement kind of strength, that was Takamura. Like the coach couldn't keep up with him; he was too fast for him when they sparred. Um, that's when Kamigawa realized he's like he's gotten stronger. He's faster. He hits harder and stuff like that. And then after the Takamura was raised with Ippo, they came back and he did mid holding, and it was flawless. Like no one else could hold Ippo's hold Ippo's mitts like that. And he pushed him. He's like, "Oh, are you done?" And then Ippo kept going, and stuff like that. And Takamura had to go to the bathroom. So he kind of won that too. So it's just I think it is building up to when he's going to eventually become Ippo's coach. Maybe it's like Kamigawa gets really sick, he gets bedridden, so maybe he'd be able to like give some strategies or like tell him something, and like maybe they might work on it or might plan things around it, and then Takamura becomes his second and kind of does that, and maybe Kamigawa comes back to the ringside and stuff like that, and it's um, them two and Yagi, I think it's his name, um, and kind of has those trio like helping him. I think that'd be a really good mix. He has the motivational and inspiring side of having his dad there, and then he has the strategic and boxing analysis from a boxing prodigy like Takamura in his corner. They could be, and plus he's like get out of your head. He'll like slap him. You like, he's like, stop thinking so much, or like, he's gonna be the one that yells from the corner and you're like, stop being an
Something
idiot.
Takamura
Yeah,
would do.
he's like, stop being an idiot. And I was like, put your guard up. I don't know. You just he has that personality to be like, stop being an idiot. I was like, come on. I was like, do this, do this, do this. It's like, you know how to do this. You know how to counter this. Why did you take that hit? I was like, you didn't need to take it and stuff like that. Give him more strategy plans because he really needs it. And I think it'd be amazing to have him in the corner.
Yeah, Takamura is the genius. He should listen to him when it comes to boxing.
Definitely, definitely. And so those were the Discord questions. I kind of have one more I'm curious about too. Is like the whole Ippo and Kumi relationship. I don't know where you have thoughts about where exactly they're going. It seems like things are gonna try to start happening. I mean, I know Morikawa doesn't really like romance. He doesn't like writing romance and stuff like that. So, but at this point, it's like, come on, they have to get together at some point.
Yeah, romance romance has never been his strong point as a mangaka. Because man, it's been uh, 1,400 chapters
Yeah,
in. They are finally making a step forward. Oh my god, that it's been so long. It's been what, 30
yeah,
years
yeah.
of romance, more or less. My god, in
Not even her girlfriend,
can we say they are a couple? Can we say that
right?
after all this
For
time?
real,
Can we say they are a couple?
right? They've been dating for like they've been dating at least as long as he's been retired. So that's at least 2 years, and then they've been dating, quote unquote dating. Like they've been going out as
Yeah,
friends,
they yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they went to the beach together and stuff like that. So they've been together for a long time, but it's like not even her girlfriend. He hasn't even said I love you or anything like that. It's just like, bro,
It has never been more
yeah,
official than right now.
yeah. And I don't know how it's all gonna play out when like the whole confusion of like when Moshville wins, then he's gonna let Kumi and Ippo be together versus Masha being like, oh no, just take care of her while I'm training for this world title match. So I was like, I don't know how that's gonna play out. There was some kind of development when he went to their house and Mashiba was asking questions, even though Ippo completely failed at all of those questions and stuff like that. It's like, bro.
Yeah, man. Oh my god, that was horrible. I can't believe Ipo failed so
So
miserably.
miserably.
Oh my god.
Like even the easiest questions, it's like it's yeah, it's so funny.
What do you see of her? What do you like? Very superficial shit.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
god.
I know there's a lot of hate for Kumi just because like she was kind of one of the main reasons why he was gonna retire because if he lost again that he was gonna retire. But like to let everyone know, it was like it wasn't just Kumi. Like he also made that
He
promise
has
to his
been
mom.
right in a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like he also made that kind of promise for his mom too. So it wasn't just Kumi. I know she doesn't want him to, but she was there through that entire time where he was experiencing all those punch drunk symptoms, and she was worried about his health. Like I think any girlfriend would be worried about the health of the fighter and stuff like that. Come back with face all messed up and stuff like that. Like it'd be concerning. Like I can understand where she comes from. But yeah, Kumi, like I understand where she's coming from, and I don't think she deserves as much of the hate as she is getting through all the fandom. But I think she's starting to turn around too.
He has a brother that for a long time he came to home very well with some injuries from street fights, and then she became a nurse and takes care of people every day. So yeah, I would be worried about my couple coming every day. Well, not every day after a big fight, injured like
Yeah, yeah, true.
Ippo
Especially
used
being
to
a
be.
nurse. Yeah, that would definitely be the forefront of my mind. And especially as she's been taking care of her brother. I mean, I imagine all the fights he's been in, like he wouldn't really go to the hospital. She would just kind of treat his wounds and see how bad it is for him sometimes. And seeing Ippo like that, or being around all these boxers and seeing all the damage and stuff like that, and being surrounded by people in the hospital all day, I can definitely see it. And of course, she doesn't want Ippo to, develop being, punch drunk. Like, no one wants that, and it would just kind of destroy, it would be able to destroy his life. I mean, he wouldn't be able to be on a boat if he had those issues. So I understand where she's coming from. I do, a lot of people are shipping off him and uh, the other student that like hit on him and stuff like that a while ago, or trying to ship him with the
Aikawa. I got to say that I really like it, that character. I know she just reappeared one chapter, was a reunion. She was drawn, but man, I think it was amazing. I don't know. I
yeah
really like it.
it was. I mean, I definitely think that she was maybe. I mean, she wasn't part Mashiba, uh like funny to see Kumi having
Yeah,
like giving her more emotion, showing like she has a Mashiba side where it's like angry and scary and stuff like that, how she's scaring the shit out of Ippo students. um but I definitely think that they did have good synergy. I thought it was kind of funny, like also kind of poetic that she only went to a few matches, but the matches that she did go to, he lost all of them. So I was like, like,
by knockout,
yeah,
by knockout, man. And she still
yeah.
liked him.
I mean, um, I think that was interesting, but it's like, but do we really want her around? Because if she's around, then he's gonna lose, right? So I don't know if we want to see Ippo lose because she's yeah,
He
yeah,
brings bad
she's
luck.
bad luck. So I don't know if we actually want to ship her off with it, or I've heard some people interested in what's her name, Mari, I think the reporter, or the female reporter, and like I
Yeah.
don't know, she's mommy to me. But, like, she's fine, but
she's she's a bit too old for Ippo, I think. And maybe she's not the best influence for him because she was the one who was pushing Ippo to go for the world title, go fight, and despite all these beatings you are
yeah, it's
getting.
true. I suppose so. I mean, maybe he needs some motivation, right? She'll give motivation, but but I mean, I don't think, like I said, I don't know how old she is compared to Epos. So I don't know if that's gonna be a thing. I mean, I know she's just a reporter, but her other reporter friend, the guy, looks a lot older. But I mean, she looks older, and
Oh
hey,
yeah,
if that's Epos' thing, then go for it, bro. I don't think that's gonna happen. Think it's still
yeah.
gonna be Kumi. But I think
I
Kumi's gonna come
wouldn't judge
around,
him.
and just like Date's wife, how she eventually came around to being like, you're not the same person, or she sees this passion that's still brewing in him, like he's still constantly thinking about boxing, he's constantly around boxing, he has boxing pupils, he's a second at world title matches. So it's like all these people that he knows and have fought against all going to world title, like and her brothers in boxing, and how he finds himself through boxing eventually. I think Mush will like come out of this as like I said in one of my previous videos, like I think he's gonna be like a Zuko, like a Zuko from Avatar, The Last Airbender, because he had such an amazing character arc of how he was just this angry person that just wanted to fight, and eventually transformed into this peaceful person and does it for other people, and is able to use that anger when he needs to, and his anger even transforms throughout the entire thing. I think that's what is going to happen for Mashba. If Kumi sees this kind of transformation, how he found himself through boxing, and that it's all worth the pain that they go through in order to achieve this kind of this new part of themselves. So, and then when she understands that, she'll let Ippo be like, I know you want to go back to boxing. I know that you told me that you would retire after you lost your last match, but I see that you're this light for people. I see every time you talk about it that it's almost like the sun's behind you and it's gleaming, and everyone around you, is you're the light that everyone has, and I see that you're missing this, and you have a reason for it now because of blah blah blah, whatever, the coach or whatever. So I think you should go back. I think you should try. I don't want to be the reason why you get held back from doing it just because you're promised to me. And then he goes back. That could be a very poetic way for him to go back, and whatever doubts he had about things, and his promises to Kumi or stuff like that, that all goes away, and it gives him this path forward that he needs to have, because Ippo is Ippo. So maybe thinking about his mom. We'll change the subject a little bit. Go to like what's preventing him with his mom of getting back into the ring.
People's mom has always said that if she goes to a boxing match of his son, she doesn't want to see his son get hit. So maybe one match she would go and I don't know, see his son not getting hit. I think that would be great, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
True. And that also kind of ties in with what I said before about him having like a flawless like first match or whatever. Maybe he does it eventually when he's already a title holder, the Japanese lightweight. But having this defense or this strategy so firm that he's able to get through rounds without being hit, and then that's what like kind of calms out with his mom, and like you see like, I promise. So like I have a plan. I'm not gonna get hit, so you can come watch me in a match. And then there's the other part where she can't do the boating business by herself, because I think even in the anime, that she, yeah, I think the third series or the last one or whatever, she basically like falls over from exhaustion or collapses out of exhaustion, and he has to leave the gym for a little while and help with the boating business in order to keep food on the table while she gets better. And he realizes, I've been leaving all of this on her, and she's been doing all the work. And one of the main reasons why he started, why he's so strong, is because he always wanted to help his mom and carry all those ice crates full of ice, do the boating business and do all that stuff. And that's how he like gained all of his muscle in the first place. uh, and I think that if he came back and he still had his students and everything like that, that he might use them in order to train them, like his own version of the beach retreat or the mountain retreat.
Yeah, I was thinking that people could tell their students to give a hand, as training, like
Yeah, like,
Karate
okay,
Kid
bring
style.
those things full of ice, and they pick up like four.
We are sailing now. I hope you can stand your ground in a boat
Yeah,
where it's
yeah,
constantly
exactly.
shaking.
And they pick up like four of the fucking the things full of ice, and he pulls up with like 10 of them, or he's carrying like 10 and they're carrying four, and they're like, Jesus Christ.
There is a couple of training montage there.
And then getting all that stuff done, and then going on the boat and helping with the boat, and them having to, yeah, get their keep their feet on the ground, and get their muscles, their knees, and everything like that kind of adjusted to being able to stay on your feet. That's another form of the training. So it also helps his mom. Um, so we will be able to solve that dilemma of not having people when he's training, because he will constantly have people there when he's training people. to help her with the work, or even take over most of the work, and she just drives the boat. And then he'll have this defensive mode in order to not get hit. So his mom will actually come to a match, which will close that loop. So I think that'll be a big thing of order to help that. So we would solve both Kumi and his mom um, issues on that with him coming back. So and his mom already sees it. Like she knows how he's still so much into it. Like she sees it all the time. He was even eating with his left hand. She's around it.
Yeah, man, it's kind of hard because I started to practice Muay Thai this couple of months, and man, and in Muay Thai, you you with frequency you switch stances, for the
Oh yeah,
kicks.
that makes sense. Yeah, you
And
pivot with
it's
place.
been it's been a period of adjustment that I I didn't know how hard it was to, you know, stand like a Southpaw, throw punches because we
Yeah,
we do drills like that. And man, it's harder than it
yeah,
looks.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that'd be tough for anyone. I mean, like I said, even for me, I have my preferred like style um, with how I do things. Um, I mean, for like boxing, I still have like the orthodox style, but there's a lot of things um, that definitely help being able to do both. So like I did other sports, what I would use both hands, stuff like that. It's definitely a change, and it's almost easier to like start off with using both and train them equally, but it's not always the case. But yeah, he definitely apparently he did really great. And plus, like I guess having weights on your hands and doing everything, you know, uh, southpaw or left-handed, having weights and doing all that stuff on top of it, like, and then being able to do it more freely once you don't have the weights on. So it's like Goku training, you gotta put weights on. And we even saw in the Mashiba fight that, when we thought that the regular guys thought he only got two good hits in, and then Itagaki said, he pointed, he gave three fingers, where so he got an extra hit in without regular people being able to see how fast the punch was. I think it was when he did the body blow, and then he did the left hook, but I think he threw in a left jab before he got out of range and dodged back out of the distance. So though Itagaki can basically see in slow motion, I mean he's got called the Kronos or whatever, the god of time or whatever in the manga. So he can see things that are, most people can't see, like, even throw punches and see, Miyatas and the speed stars like punches. So only he was able to see the third punch. So that means that he has a really, really fast punch. Maybe his like jabs are extremely fast now, because they were already fast before, but with weights on all the time and stuff like that, and practicing left-handed and dexterity and everything like that, that he has even faster punches. And so Miyata's reaction to seeing when he takes off the weights and sees his left jab for the first time, I think that'd be really cool.
Do you care about Miyata? Because I don't care about
No,
Miyata at this point. I'm sorry.
there's a lot of hate, and I don't really
Man,
care for him
it's
either, to be honest. Like,
he just appears. He goes to check if Ippo is going to come back. He doesn't get the answer he wants and disappears. It it has happened
yeah,
quite
yeah,
few. Like, man, I haven't seen you fight since
yeah.
what?
Randy Boy Jr.
The
I think it was
fight
the last one we
against
saw. We haven't seen any since
yeah,
then, and that was forever ago.
that was in like chapter 700.
Some like,
It's
yeah,
been at the half of the
y-
manga. Half of the manga we haven't
yeah.
seen you fight. I
Like I
don't
don't know if he's
care.
just like not fighting, or he's fighting like cannon fodder and doesn't want to fight any. Like he's like, oh, like I don't want to fight anyone
He's
strong. And
fighting
he
kind of
even said he
fire.
didn't want to fight Ricardo. Like, man, I was like, what rank are you at this point? And I was like, I don't remember what rank, but I was like, you have a belt. I was like, and why don't you go for the the other belt for the world championship, not Ricardo's? You can go for the other ones. Um, but then
What a
again,
waste
I
of
think
character,
yeah,
of
and
everything.
you know his body is basically wasting away in lightweight. Um, you know, in I got
Featherweight,
some
yeah.
hate from some Miyata fans in my video, my top 10 video for the top 10 strongest fighters, and it was just like they're just saying that I was like, why is Miyata so low? Like I put him at number 10. I was like, because he's
They always
yeah
say in the manga, they always say that Miyata is the most talented boxer of the generation, of Ippo's
yeah
generation. But man, we haven't seen enough from a long time ago to say that. It's like you're telling me this, but you're not showing. I don't
right.
care.
Well, watch Miyata be the first one that gets punch drunk in the series. Uh, I mean, good on him for like surviving
I
this
just want
long.
to see Miyata do something
Yeah, and he's more
again.
perceptible to damage when he's like dehydrated and stuff like that. That he's gonna be during matches because he's dehydrated. There's only so much you can recover from within a 24 hour. Like it's the next day, right? Like when you get from you wait in to when you start the match, it's the next day. So people like eat a lot and stuff like
Yeah,
that, but
sometimes
you can't recover from
you know
dehydration
they
that fast.
more or less there has been cases of boxers that are featherweights and go to the fight like being junior uh,
Yeah,
lightweights.
yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, they can recover some pounds in. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Miyate's weight is his corpse
yeah,
even doing
yeah.
those cut of
Yeah,
weights.
yeah, and in that video, I put a few pictures of when he's been training before a fight, and he's just like skin and bones at this point. He just has to completely dehydrate himself. Like he was having a struggle to even, you know, even get off the every single bit of water weight so he could make the cut. So it's just like it's bad for people to do that kind of thing on a regular basis. A lot of actors, like the older actors get, the more they can't do it. Did you know that's why Iron Man retired from his role? Is because he couldn't perform all the things. Wait, it wasn't Iron Man. No, it was Wolverine. The guy that's Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, that he had to like make his body like really like chiseled and stuff like that in order to get that kind of body fat loss or that kind of definition in your muscles when you're filming. You have to dehydrate in order to do it because it makes them more prominent. So he had to do that, and on top of being like working out, you know, hours and hours and hours every day in order to keep the form and then dehydrate before shooting. Like it was took a big toll on his body, so he couldn't keep doing it.
Yeah. That's something your body is not used to. That's something that's not natural. You are not meant to
Yeah,
dehydrate in a regular
yeah, it
basis.
messes with our like our liver or our hearts, our brain. Like you're basically dulling your senses for doing that. So the bigger he gets, he was only what 16 when he started, so he's pretty young. So
There is there is a case in boxing. There is a case in boxing that I always remember when they bring the thing about putting weight.
yeah,
Do you know who Maxim Dadashev was?
no, was he?
He was a Russian boxer. He was a young talent that used to fight in the junior welterweight division, and he was fighting for a world title eliminator against Latino, who was Subras. He's the champion right now of the
No.
division. But back then, what happened on that fight is that Matsin Dadashev, because of the cutting weight of because of that, when he went to the fight, he took a lot of punches, and after the fight, he lost his life. it was all because he did a bad weight cutting.
Um,
So when they always bring the thing about cutting weight, I always remember how dangerous it can be. It only takes one bad fight, one fight that you take more punches than you are used to, and that could be it, man. So that's a risk that Miyata could face in the future if he doesn't move on his way.
yeah, and he was already notoriously bad at taking punches to begin with, and he's been trying to work on that. But
Yeah, that works for him.
and now that he's cutting weight so severely, he said in the series that he lost his legs, like he can't be as fast as he was. So being in featherweight literally took away his wings, which I thought was very poetic. But yeah, so
But somehow he's still the best of the
yeah,
generation. Man, I hated that panel.
yeah, it was a shame. So it'd be nice to get kind of this textbook story, ending and stuff like that, and having Miyata and Ippo fight at the very end. But I I don't think that Miyata's gonna make it. To be honest, like
Do we really want to see that happening? Not just because, well, that's the fight that we always expected, but because Miyata is not on his right weight division. He shouldn't be there. Not anymore.
yeah, yeah,
He shouldn't be a featherweight.
exactly. I mean, almost most of the fighters I think that was in his generation have moved up, like Mashiba and
Both became super featherweight. Mashiba, super featherweight, then lightweight.
yeah.
Who else?
I thought Volg went up, but I might be mistaking it. That otherwise, if Volg didn't move up in weight, then he would be the current lightweight champion of the other belt.
No, super featherweight.
Um,
No, he is the super featherweight. That would be junior lightweight, one division below
okay,
Mashiba.
yeah, that's what I thought. Someone said that he was the other holder of um the lightweight, and I was like, I don't think we've ever been introduced to the other person who has the other belt. Because we know Ricardo, but we don't know who has the other belt in the lightweight division. Because we know in this timeline, there's two belts for each division, uh, but so we're not entirely sure. Maybe we'll eventually
Yeah,
look into them.
Ricardo became the guy that no one's what wants to fight. He's the WBA, and that's it. The people goes to the WBC if they want to be world champion.
Sounds good. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.
We should definitely do this again. Maybe I'll try to get some other people that run channels or something like that. Try to get some more people in,
Man,
weigh some other opinions. Been trying.
it would be totally fun. I would like to.